So, okay, so you all ready?
I'm great. Ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. So I am really blessed to be speaking with Norman Thomas. Now, let me just give you a little backstory. On the 13th of May, I was sent a video of some guy, say some guy, so I'm going to put it, talking to a group of guys, black guys, in a restaurant. So that I could still see the waiters serving around them. And he was talking to a group of guys, and he was talking about guys and how they need to look after their prostate and different bits about their health and really taking it seriously. So I sent my friend a text and I said to her, who is this guy? I need him on my radio show. She said, I don't know. I just got the text, the video forwarded to me. I forwarded it to you. That was the 13th of May. End of May, I go to the Classic Car Show with my friends. I just start chatting to two guys randomly. And I thought they owned this Jensen. It wasn't theirs. We started talking and then they said, how did you get here? And I said, I came on my bike. And the guy's like, oh, I'm in love already. Let me see your bike. So me, I've got my Roots and Culture cycling crew t-shirt on. I'm on a push bike, right? But I said, I come on my bike. It's the bike, innit? So he said, let me see your bike. So I said, fine. So we start walking over to my bike. They're like, oh, it's a bike.
Not a classic Harley.
I thought it was like vroom. Anyway, we started talking. We collect, we change numbers, and one of the guys says he works with he's a teacher, people with special needs. So then we speak the next day. As we're talking, he's go, I really want you to meet somebody. I've got a guy I think you should meet. And I think you'd get on really well. And then he said he did this video and it went viral. I said, ho. I said, is it a guy? And he went, yeah. That's how worlds collide. So exactly. I saw you on Instagram, the video that we went. I saw you on WhatsApp on the video.
Yeah.
I go 2 weeks later to the Classic Car Show, which is on the other side of London to me. I happen to, the place is packed with people.
Yeah.
And the two guys standing by the car that wasn't theirs, I happened to talk to those two. I bring them over to my bike. And now...
have you studied synchronicity at all?
I haven't, but I need to, because I'm just like, wow. So this is how I meet.
If you study synchronicity, I think some of this will make sense.
Fantastic. So
all the things that's
all of it that's happening. And so now here I am, 2 weeks later again. And I have Norman Thomas. Norman Thomas, who will be 71 in November. He is a Scorpio like myself.
I think it's October. I think I probably
okay, but what date in October?
25th.
He's a Scorpio like myself.
Exactly.
So I wasn't wrong, right? Was born in Jamaica and came to the country on his 9th year. A month before his 18th birthday, he left the lower sixth form of his school and went for an interview at the Old Bailey Central Criminal Court and got a job working there. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about his journey through the criminal service, coming out of the criminal service, bearing in mind he left school without the relevant qualifications. We're going to let him give that little backstory. And then we're going to move into where he finds himself today and why he is an advocate for men's health. And why I love it is because, you know, I'm running these unfiltered events. And my next event in July is Let's Talk About Sex. And there's a full stop between each letter, because really that's about our sovereignty, our experience, and our expression. And I'm talking about sex after childbirth, celibacy, hysterectomy, menopause, and trauma. But in December, I'm blessed to have Norman being my guest speaker, and we're going to talk about sex after prostate and testicular issues. So Norman, welcome to Her Health and Happiness.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad we linked up. The universe made it possible. All things is possible with the universe.
100%. And if anyone doesn't believe in universal laws, I just said, who is this guy? I need him. I didn't say I want him. I said, I need him for my radio show. And I put it out into the universe.
Exactly. You put it into the universe. That is the important thing. That is synchronicity.
And here you are.
And somehow the universe made it all happen. We don't understand how it works.
No. So I want to go straight into your story, right? I have to shut the window because if I leave the windows open, then I'll get all the cars going past. So I'm sitting here having a personal summer. So just excuse me. Yeah? But anyway, so I want to tell people, the listeners, about your story for the Old Bailey, because I think it's such a fascinating one.
Well, what happened, Jenny, I actually started to learn to drive when I was 16, even though I hadn't taken my test. I just started learning to drive at a private facility. and I used to play rugby at a reasonably high level. And when I was 16, I was playing for my school at in Wanstead, and I had a terrible injury. I dislocated my right hip, damaged my pelvis. It's a horrific injury. I was hospitalized in bed for almost 7 weeks. I couldn't walk. It took me a long time to walk properly again. So
Was this
it
from a
delayed
tackle?
me. This from a tackle. Yeah, I thought I was about to try. I went for the try line. Somebody tackled me from behind. I went down, and the whole leg came out, turned around, if you can imagine. It's a horrific accident. And I was hospitalized a substantial amount of time, couldn't walk properly for a long time. So I was due to take my driving test, couldn't take it. Cut a long story short, I took it afterwards. And I took my driving test in May 1972 and bought my first car in June 1972. So I then started hitting the party scene hard, even though I was still at school, was supposed to start my lower six. I then got involved with my friends playing three-card brag in the local park in Leighton. So when I went back to school in September to start the lower six, the headmaster said to me, "This is not working, is it, Mr. Thomas?" I said, "Maybe not." So there, by mutual consent, I agreed to leave Leighton Senior High School for Boys. And I was sent to the Central Careers Office in London. And they sent me for an interview at the Central Criminal Court in Old Bailey. I turned up there because I used to buy my clothes in Carnaby Street at that time. You're much too young to remember this. I used to buy my clothes in Carnaby Street. So I was dressed like somebody out of one of those 70s movies, like Shaft. And I turned up at the Old Bailey in October 1972. The Old Bailey was like Buckingham Palace. People wore morning suits. I didn't see one other black face there. And it must have been a real shock to them, top chair system, but they offered me a job. So I think it was a few days before my 18th birthday, or a week before, I started working at the Old Bailey Central Criminal Court. I then knuckled down. My life just turned upside down. I started knuckling down. I then started studying, and yeah, I was progressing. And 2 years later, this is where the story gets even more crazy. 2 years later, I was sitting at home and I was reading the Waltham Forest Guardian, and I saw a post, 5 trainee clerk of the Magistrates Court for the North East London area. The interview was at the Old Crown Court at Woodford, and I chipped up there. There must have been about, I don't know, 20 odd people on this for this interview. And the board that had interviewed us were like 20 white men and women. At that time, I wasn't a qualified lawyer. There were people already qualified lawyers. And I got one of the 5 trainee clerk in the magistrates courts in the North East London area. And I think at that time, I probably became one of the youngest black or white in the country doing that. And I then progressed my studies, subsequently qualified as a barrister, and continued in the magistrates court service in the North East London area until such time I got out of that.
Wow, what a start. So you were always destined for greatness, right? So there's something in you that allows you to not see, there's no glass ceiling for you. There's no limit to what you can do. And I think that's a really beautiful story for people to recognize. It's like, you know, you didn't have a suit and tie on, and
absolutely not.
Yeah, and it works. There was a post I saw recently, and it was, I think Stephen Bartlett may have been misquoted or quoted out of context. He was saying black guys at 22 shouldn't be wearing ties. It's not their authentic self. And there's a kind of like a backlash. And I think there's a plus and minus to it, because I've got this little book my sister gave me, Quotes of Women. The quote says, if men say they're so smart, you know, men really believe they're the smartest people, why do they keep wearing neckties? Because it's like tying a noose around your neck, right? It's like, but it's true. But the thing is we've got this uniform, haven't we, when it comes to certain jobs? You know, this is the way in which you dress for this. This is the court system as a whole uniform itself. So we fall into that uniform, but sometimes you have to break the mold. You know, I don't think it's right to tell people not to wear it. It's their choice, but sometimes you have to break the mold, and you have to be confident in yourself. So what gave you that confidence? Because I think it sounds a crazy question, but I think it's important for people to realize, especially as a black man when you was young as well, with all the stuff that's going on, what made you just feel like?
Do you know, I think it's something innate in us that's come from the universe, because when I was growing up and I went to primary school, because my teachers would be absolutely shocked if they realized where I ended up. I don't think they expected me to achieve much at all.
Mm.
So I think it's something that's from the universe that we just can't put our hands on, but it's something built inside of us. As I said, I didn't come from a rich family. In Jamaica, I come from what is now the downtown Kingston of the ghetto in Kingston.
Wow.
I can remember having one good pair of shoes, and that was a Sunday.
That's for church.
So that's
Yeah,
that's
I know
my
that story.
and also, you know, don't forget, I didn't move around with people that had money. Most of my friends were black youngsters. A lot of them were on the wrong side of the law.
Mm.
And I had some really embarrassing situations. I remember when I was at Waltham Forest Magistrate School, and I was sitting as a clerk of the court. I obviously hadn't read the charge sheet, and because you could have 80 cases on your list that come up, whether it's a traffic court, criminal matter. I hadn't read the charge sheet. The dock opened, and I think it was 6 or 7 guys walked in for taking and driving away a car. They were all my mates.
Oh God.
So I had to remove myself from that particular case. But yeah, but
Wow.
having said that, the reason why I'm still friends to this day with all those guys, we're still very tight, because throughout all this time, and this is bonkers, I used to work at the Old Bailey from Monday to Friday. And then Friday nights, I would be raving at Four Aces Club in Dalston. Saturday night, I'll be raving at some shubeen at Chickens in Stoke Newington.
Oh my God.
Sunday night, I would be at some other place. Monday morning, I'm back at the big bad Old Bailey again.
Yeah, you live life to the full, mate. You did.
So
I
maintain my roots 199%. I've not moved away.
Fantastic. So that's a really good story. So let's move into, we've moved on from there. You said you told me before we had this interview that you created a couple of entrepreneurial businesses and you had them and they failed.
Yeah.
But you have also 5 children. You've got 10 grandchildren.
That's correct. Yeah.
So for all of the stuff that you was doing, because obviously you kind of burnt the candle at both ends and in the middle, was health something that you thought about, or what was the trigger to start to begin to realize that actually, you know what, the biggest asset I have is my health. The biggest investment I could make, the best investment I can make is into my health. What was the turnaround point?
Back in 2006, I was looking after my dear mother, who departed, I think it was 2007. Well, I was looking after her from before then. So I used to take her to hospital all the time. I knew all her doctors. She had chronic kidney disease, so she was under the direction of a kidney specialist and another specialist. So I used to look after her medication, and it got to a point where I moved in to look after her. And I used to think I was quite active. I used to go to the gym early in the mornings. And one day I went to the gym the previous night, I was on my bike, my stationary bike at my mother's, because I used to have a room in the loft looking after her. I was on my stationary bike. I felt a twinge in the side, took no notice of it. Went to the gym in the morning, another twinge, took no notice of it. Went to mum's, made her breakfast, went to have a pee. I was peeing blood. Not great. I hung around, looked after mum till lunchtime, went to have another pee. I was peeing blood. I said, Mum, listen, I've got to go to the hospital. I drove myself to Whipps Cross. I literally abandoned my car. I think it's a staff car. It's just at the front, abandoned it, got inside and sort of collapsed in it, basically. That's my starting point. My life was turned upside down overnight. There was no other warnings apart from that, apart from the twinge the previous night and the twinge the morning, going to pee in some blood. Consequently, I was hospitalized briefly, diagnosed with all kinds of things. I'd a damaged kidney. My left kidney was only working 18%. The right one wasn't great either. Something we saw, I had enlarged prostate. Blood pressure was 200 over 100, stroke territory. It was not great. I was put on medication. I've taken no medication previously before in my life. I was put on medication. 1 month later, my wife took me back to the casualty on a Friday night because I was feeling so ill. And I saw this doctor and she said, Mr. Thomas, these medication will damage your kidneys, and my kidneys already damaged.
Oh my God. So they gave, I know they don't look at what they're giving you, do they?
But it will protect your life. My wife dropped me back to my mum's, and I went up to my room in a loft, and it was like something overcame me. Something from the universe overcame me, directed me to go to my laptop. And I started researching stuff that can, because I had a chronic kidney infection that it just could not stop. So that's the first thing I started Googling. I came across a company called Native Remedies in Boca Raton, Florida. And it said it could solve any kidney infection within 3 days. So, okay, got my card out, placed an order. That was on a Friday night. On the Monday, it was delivered to my home in Chingford, not my mother's. And I started taking some drops. And within 2.5 days, the kidney infection that couldn't be cured had stopped. And from that,
and it was called
nativeremedies.com. It's in Boca Raton, Florida. But this was like 2006. And from that night, I said, I'm not taking any more pharmaceutical medications whatsoever. Everyone thought I was crazy. My consultant nephrologist, my consultant urologist, my family, everyone thought I was bonkers. From that day, I've never taken one other pharmaceutical medication. I then embarked on a long journey over the past 19 years of studying and researching natural health, which has come up all sorts of things. I'm particularly interested in anti-aging. That's all kinds of things. Whether it's diabetes.
Well, you don't look like 71. That's all I know, and I know I don't look like sassy, sexy 62. So I'm not worried. It is a thing, and I think. Sorry to cut you, but you know, like people that like there's some stars that spend $2 million a year.
You're talking about Brian Johnson. That's another story.
Intravenous stuff. Okay, but you know all this stuff to anti-age, but they ain't making. They're not learning anything.
Nope, absolutely not. And Brian Johnson, who you mentioned, he sold his company, and I think he sold his company for like over $800 million US. And he allegedly spends $2 million a year. But what he doesn't say, and unless you inquire closely, he uses all kinds of things such as hair replacement, hair dyes, skin abrasion. So he's not really, it's all that money he's spending, he's not really doing much.
No, because they're not doing it the right way. And because of the outside in, because the whole thing about the whole walk for celebrities is they're not ready to not be relevant. And so they rely on their external appearance, but they forget that if they look after the internal world, it will give them the external appearance that they're chasing. It's not an outside-in job; it's an inside-out job.
Exactly. My one regret is that I didn't learn enough in time to help my dear mum, who passed away. You know, so that's my one regret.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like with my mum here. You know, I'm one of 6. My brother's here as well now, you know, and we do things and we do it collectively, but we still do things in different ways. And I've been a nutrition and lifestyle coach since 2006 as well. So my regret is when I first qualified that I didn't come here and say to my mum, what are you doing? What are you taking? I didn't really pay attention to what she was doing.
Right.
Because I just got my qualifications. I wasn't living at home. I came and I didn't really dig into what is my mum taking. I remember one time years ago, I saw like, you know, she was like taking 28 tablets a day. Then I was like, what are you doing? We need to change this. But the whole, you know, even with that thing they gave everybody, you know, even this morning, I watched another video on Instagram, a heart surgeon who's saying that, you know, before this pandemic, he only ever had 2 patients that he saw with myocarditis, right? But since they all put themselves with that, you know, like, this is going to save my life. You are the disease. You are like, I honestly, I'll say this something. I used to hang off the words of Michelle and Barack Obama. I liked what they had to say. I liked her demeanor, how she said, but the day I heard her say, if you haven't had the vaccine, don't come near me. I thought, you know what? I will never come near you. I took her book, dash it away. Not interested in anything you've got to say. because for someone so educated, I could not believe you bought into that. But then I know you've been bought. You must have been bought. So you're part of, you know, Tony Blair got paid millions to say that it works. If it works, why do you have to pay somebody £33 million to advocate for something? If it works, you should just be the example.
What I did, I sent I made an audio clip, I think it was March 2020. And I made another audio clip after, and I said at the time, I said to all those who would listen, one, get your vitamin D level up to a certain point, which we know now. And in my talk I gave, we know from one of the studies in Israel, if your vitamin D levels was up to 75, which is rubbish, you would not die of COVID, and your chances of end up in ICU was pretty small. That's just 75. And I'm telling people to get to 200 nanomoles, which is another story. So I sent around a talk, one, how you could possibly protect yourself from it, but also how you could actually deal with it, because there's something we call a vitamin D bomb, i.e. if you're feeling a little bit funny, you've got something coming on, hit yourself with anything between 50 and 150,000 IUs of vitamin D for 3 days, it will squash it. So that's the other thing I was saying to people. So not only just get your levels up, but if you do feel like you've come over it, knock it very hard and it will knock it out. Not many people listen.
Well, listen, if you can't hear, you feel. Now, I didn't know that one, but I do know that all through that, I created a group. I had I was working with 11 Black women, and I created Empowering Lives. We started doing online cooking, 4-day rotations. We were detoxing, we were doing everything. And then I think it was in 21 or 22 when you were out and again, but you had to have your little passport and show you were clear. I had paid for Vivi B's Hastings Soul Weekend, and I'd paid for myself and 2 of my friends. I mean, they paid me back, but I'd booked it and everything, right? And then the week before, I had my friends round on the Friday, and I was like, you know, in my garden, and I was a bit cold, you know. And then on the Sunday, I was invited to my friend's barbecue, but I spent the whole time inside, and I was really cold. On the Monday morning, I woke up, my friend said to me, do it. I said, I ain't doing that test. I'm not going tennis. I'm not doing that test. She said, Jenny, do it. I could not believe I caught it. I was like, wow. So that meant that weekend was the Hastings Soul Weekend. And I looked forward to all year. And they went and I couldn't go. But I actually overdosed on, like, you know, because you know you can't overdose not on vitamin C. So I'll take a lot of those Energy C's, right? I know they've got other stuff in, but I just loves taking loads of those sachets.
Were you taking liposomal C or just straightforward ascorbic acid?
No, I think it might have been straightforward. I'm not actually, I can't remember. You know, you know the Energy C sachet, the sachets.
Oh, it probably would have been possibly, you would have known because it'd been very expensive. If it's a liposomal, it'd be expensive.
Yeah. So I just took like sort of 6 or 8 sachets of those a day. But I also, I only ate like low, well, I just had my smoothies and stuff, my detox. But I also had at night the old Jamaican remedy, which was a shot of the overproof white rum, with a dash of lime, with a good dash of black pepper, and the juice of half a lime. And it took me like 5 days, but you know, it was gone. But I do feel, so I'm after that, because I do feel sometimes I still have residual a little bit. In the morning, sometimes I feel I've got a little bit of mucus in my throat. You know, once I've got rid of that little piece of mucus, and then I'm fine for the day. But I found that in the last year or so, it seems to be like it's dislodging itself. But
vitamin C is one of the strongest antioxidants you can come across. Now, I'm not sure if you've come across this case, but if you Google it, you'll come across it. It's a farmer in New Zealand, and he got the most terrible sepsis. He was literally in intensive care. They wanted to turn the machines off, and they would not try intravenous vitamin C. His family smuggled in some of these same liposomal I'm talking about, and slowly it got him back to life to the point where they were forced to give him sufficient vitamin C. But the person who's really regarded as the father of vitamin C, and he got the Nobel Prize, was Linus Pauling. So if you ever, look back at him, but vitamin C, so long as you take it to bowel tolerance, because the first time I came across the studies on vitamin C was a doctor, and he managed to cure his pneumonia within 48 hours.
Wow.
Every half an hour, he would take a particular dosage of vitamin C on the half an hour, all the way around the clock. So vitamin C is one of the most powerful things
Mm.
that you can take.
And you do pee out the excess. So that's why I told a lot of my friends, because they're saying, oh, yeah, you got to be careful. I'm like, be careful of what?
Yeah,
You know,
no,
it's water soluble. You will pee it out. It will not kill you. It will save your life.
I've fallen off a little bit, but I used to take all the time, regularly, probably between 8 and 10 grams per day, every day, 365 days a year. 8 to 10 grams. That's 8,000 to whatever 1,000. So I used to take a lot of vitamin C. But one last thing before we mention about the wonderful vaccine, I did a video when it was proposed that it was coming out, and I said to people, listen, this is my reason why I think it's just not going to work. One, we've had a flu vaccine. It was developed before, but probably commercially since about 1925. Right? Has it ever solved the flu? No, because the virus are constantly replicating. It is impossible. It's impossible. So it's never going to work. And so it's proof.
Yeah. But anyway, let's not go down that road, because I'm not been there, done that. So then you've gone through all this stuff. You've got your kidneys back working. You're back on track and everything. By the way, we're going to have a break. Come back on the other side. Because this is going to be longer than my half an hour. Yeah. So it's going to end up being 2 weeks. Okay, so we're back. So you've gone through. You've got your kidneys back working. But what, in terms of your prostate, so you said were you diagnosed with prostate cancer at the same time, or just an enlarged prostate?
No, I was.
You've never been diagnosed with prostate?
Enlarged prostate.
Right. Okay. So you was told you had an enlarged prostate, because I also worked with a guy with enlarged prostate. So I'll talk to you first about yours, and I'll tell you what I did. And so when you found out you had an enlarged prostate, what did that worry you? What other symptoms did you have, and what was your primary reason for trying to shrink it?
Don't forget, I'm Googling kidney transplants and all kinds of madness. My blood pressure is 200 over 100, stress territory. So enlarged prostate wasn't necessary. I just know all these things are there. And all I know is I'm going to use whatever God has given me to research to try and make myself better. And so that's what I've been doing. And it's taken a long time to actually study enough about the kidneys and how to try and reverse that, study enough about maybe what is causing this blood pressure. And I could segue a little bit into that, because I went to Jamaica. I used to do business in Jamaica, and I took sick. Well, I wasn't feeling great in Jamaica. Went to see a Cuban doctor out there. And he said, Mr. Thomas, I'm not going to give you anything, because I wouldn't take medication anyway. It's just I just went to see him. He said, when you get back to England, ask your doctor to find out why you've got the high blood pressure. I came back and I thought, you know something? These doctors are giving people high blood pressure tablets, whether it's ACE inhibitors, which works on a particular enzyme that the kidneys make, whether it's beta blockers to slow your heart down, whether it's diuretics to make you pee out more. And I thought, you know something? What natural supplements can I find that does the same thing? That's how I got me on the road to solving my high blood pressure. So same sort of thing. Okay, I've got an enlarged prostate. What does that entail? What does that do? What can possibly, and I start doing my research. What do I come across? I start taking and trying various things. So for me,
this is my book, Pelvic Philosophy. I've got blurred my background, Pelvic Philosophy. Oh, right, exactly. See it, right? Yeah. And it's all color coded, like you're saying. Carry on talking.
Yeah. So basically, whatever it's for me, whatever it's been, whether it's been high blood pressure, whether it's been chronic kidney disease, whether it's been an enlarged prostate, and other bits and pieces that's happened on the way, I've solved them. And in doing so, I've also advised other people and had success. I've had success with people who are clearly diabetic. You know,
my mum's diabetic, as I said to you.
Yeah. So when people say to me that I've said to you, listen, it's a very, very tiny percentage of people who are insulin dependent to the point where the beta cells in their pancreas is knackered. So if the beta cells in the pancreas is knackered, possibly there's nothing to do. Having said that, there's some revolutionary work which has come out, I think it was in China, where they've used stem cells to replace the beta cells in the
In the
pancreas.
pancreas.
So
Wow.
even type 1 diabetes is now possibly to be able to get round. But for anybody else, you give me them, I'll take them on a desert island and I'll get them non-diabetic in a short period of time.
Wow.
The problem is getting people to comply with what they need to do. That's what
they need to do. Well, listen, right, and I'm gonna have to wrap up in a moment. But this, in my book here, when I wrote it in 2013, I have a whole chapter on testicular cancer and prostate issues, right? And I call him my surrogate dad, Vasco. I don't know if you know Vasco Stevenson. He used to be a part of the prostate awareness charity, but he does a lot of work on this as well. So I think it's a bit older than you, but he does a lot of work around men's health. I'm very excited about actually, one, being connected, two, not only that, what I forgot to say at the top of the show, is not only did I say, I need this man on my show, then when we spoke 2 weeks ago, I was like, so what area do you live in? He's like, oh, I live in Enfield. I'm like, shut up. That's where I live. What do you mean? So it's down the road to me as well. It's like, you know, everything was meant to be, because it's not even too far away. It's like a stone's throw from me, really. And this is quite funny because, like I said, I'm really driving to try and get Black women. I'm trying to get women to look after their health, but particularly to also appeal to the Black community, because I don't like the statistics where we're twice as likely to get from, we're 4 times as likely to, and then we are 4 times as likely or twice as likely to not be proactive enough to do something. So I think what I really like about you, and when we've been speaking, is that whatever got hold of you, I've always said this with cancers, there's 2 different types: people that die quickly and people that survive and come out the other side. The ones that die quickly just focus on what they've got till they're dead. The other ones go, I ain't ready to go nowhere, man. So I'm going to focus on, now, that's what they're telling me. Nah, not ready. And it's the mind. Once you make up your mind and you decide to do something, it's choices and consequences.
Well, listen, we obviously haven't got time now, but if people were to study, and I've studied spontaneous healing, it is mind-blowing how many people have cured themselves of all kinds of things, stage 4 cancers, using the mind, spontaneous healing. And before I forget, one very important thing, and I think it was a central tenet of my talk, which I sent you. If people, and particularly us Black people, can get our vitamin D's levels to 200 nanograms per deciliter in the UK, because in America and other places they use nanograms, and if we can take the said vitamin D daily, there's clearly evidence to show that it will protect us. It won't be 3-in-1 Black people dying of COVID. It won't be twice more diabetics. It won't be twice more prostate cancer. And one last thing before we go, I've just come across a study literally about a week ago, came out of America, I think it was the 30th, 31st of May. It concluded that those persons who took 2,000 IUs, international units of vitamin D daily, which is a rubbish amount, over a period of 4 years, they will live at least 4 years longer because it lengthens their telomeres. Telomeres being the little shoelaces on the end of our DNA. So if nothing else, just for longevity, get your vitamin D level up, because we've had more and more evidence coming out about it now.
Plus, it will help you to absorb magnesium better. It will help your bone density. It does help with your skin and your hair and your vitality. It helps with what little sex life you may have left at this age. It tells us so many things. But you know what? We're going to do another interview. We're going to have to talk again, because
100%,
I'm going to have to go and check mum now.
We've not even scratched
we haven't scratched the surface.
All the things.
This is why I like I said,
I am earthing. Red light therapy.
God, red light therapy. I've got red light therapy. I've got red light therapy for my face.
Wonderful.
I do red light therapy.
Exactly.
Earthing all the time. So, get over this thing whereby the grass is dirty, Get yourself out into the grass and earth yourself, because actually the energy that goes, we're electric, we're energy. And so it's quite interesting, like I said, because I'm having this conversation. I had a Christian say to me, oh, that conversation. I'm like, well, hold on a second. There's lots of single women in the church. Right? Celibacy is a big thing. So they're moving and they're aging and they're moving into the menopause. There's a biological changes happening to them internally. before they meet their new husband and they get married, the relationship will be over, because when they come return to intimacy, that's what's going to happen. That sovereignty and that experience it's going to be a poor experience. There's different types of hysterectomy, which means there's different types of intimacy after hysterectomy. There's different types of menopause. There's different types of trauma. But I really want men to be able to attend this meeting as well as women. But I've got this feeling in my bones, Norman. I know that when we do this together in December, I honestly feel this will be the most sold out one of all. And because I have the opportunity to have the big projector screen, we can have up to 100 online all around the world, which means we can get the message globally about the health. And we've got from 6:30 till 10. So we've got time to have an interactive session that allows us to share information, people to ask questions, share some more, people to ask questions, and do some interactive stuff just before Christmas. But if they want to, I'm really gonna, I'm gonna beg, I'm saying this live, so I'm just putting him on the spot, yeah? I'm gonna try and get Norman to, I know he's going to Jamaica when I do the one in, is it September?
No, I think I'm gonna be away in Jamaica in September, yeah.
In September. But what I will try to do, and what I'd love to do, is have you, invite you to, even if you're on screen or whatever in July, just to even just share a little snippet that people can get a little taste of, because this information you're sharing, it can apply to Black women too, yes?
Absolutely. No, I think I mentioned that in the post. Breast cancer. All this is very important for Black women. If it's exactly the same, a cancer cell. What is a cancer cell? As I said, it's a cell that becomes dysregulated and starts to multiply out of control any part of the body. So it absolutely applies to Black women. That's frustrating. You know, the incidence of breast cancer.
Yeah. And I've got the friend and understanding the meridians.
I know we haven't got the time, but you mentioned it, mindset. And there's a gentleman I study, Dr. Bruce Lipton. You may or may not have studied it yourself, but he mentions the BRCA gene, the gene that Angelina Jolie actually removed her breast for. And he said, why is it that 50% of women only get breast cancer from that gene? And he puts it down to the mind and the epigenetics of that particular person. So it's all very interesting, but we haven't got the time for all that now. I think we lost your sound.
No, Mama's making noise now, so I need to go and tend to her. It has been an absolutely fantastic chance to speak. I will definitely give you a call later on today.
Please do.
And this will just be so powerful, because like I said, Her Health and Happiness is a show for all aspects of female intimate health and the whole person. But those females have brothers, fathers, you know, sons, dads, right? Husbands. And so understanding male health helps the female, because anything you're suffering, we're going through it with you, and vice versa. How are we internalizing your issues? How are we dealing with and communicating to you your issues, and vice versa? So, Norman.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Absolutely fantastic.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, 1 second. I'm just going to stop the recording.